process would be relatively neutral, fair, free, and there wouldn't be any organizational or institutional involvement either in favor of one or B political group. So that's all we can say.
Still, it's quite possible, as you know, that Imran Khan's supporters will not accept that he is not on the ballot. And if it is the case that they return to the protests on the scale of what we saw back in May, what will that mean for this vote?
Well, as far as protest is concerned, if it remains peaceful, it is their basic democratic right. And we will try to protect the democratic right of any political party, be it PTI or PMLN or PPP or anyone. They do have the right to express their views. They do have the right to dissent within the prescribed norms of law. What we would be observing or would not allow, the kind of vandalism in the name of protest, or if people are going violent, that kind of situation cannot be acceptable to any demand.
Understandably so, but if it becomes a reality, how will this vote proceed? How can it be legitimate?
Well, as far as legitimacy is concerned, a vote with or without protest, if it happens in those 8 hours, it does remain legitimate. Whether people would raise questions on the fairness and the transparency degree, that can be debated. But as far as the legitimacy is concerned, it's always there.
Because we should be clear, it's not just about Imran Khan in that case. There's also this question of these new constituency delimitations. Those could prove quite controversial as well. Are you concerned?
Whether they would be controversial or not, I'm not that much concerned. But the issue more important over here is that it's a constitutional demand. It's a constitutional requirement. If we do talk about the supremacy of Constitution, then we have to abide by that. If someone feels, a political group, any of them, they feel that there shouldn't be linked with delimitation of the constituencies, then the right forum was the earlier parliament which retired. They could have brought in the changes in the law and the constitution. They could have done that, but that has passed and no one has done that. So now we are stuck with a situation where we have to follow the law and constitution. So if constitution demands and asks us to do the limitation, the Election Commission of Pakistan is bound by that. They cannot flout and defy the constitution.
Right. But as for the people who will obviously be dissatisfied with who is appearing on the ballot, it's not just about not having their candidate there. It's also about this mistrust of foreign powers and what they have seen as meddling in Pakistan that has led up to this election. Many Pakistanis, for example, believe the United States helped Khan's opponents remove him from office. His opponents, of course, say that's a conspiracy, but there are now these reports showing classified documents where the U.S. supported, some say they even pressured, that no confidence vote against Imran Khan when he was prime minister. That led, of course, to his removal. They said that the United States in particular was angry that he was neutral on Ukraine, and some said cozying up to President Vladimir Putin. How detrimental is it that the United States in particular is viewed with this kind of suspicion?
Well, these sort of conspiracy theories, they circulate everywhere in any or every political culture, and same is the situation in case of Pakistan. As far as I recall, this allegation of conspiracy that somebody, particularly the United States, has pushed Khan's government for the ouster, I think so within a couple of months, or I would be wrong in determining the time, but they retreated and they retrieved from that allegation themselves. So how would me or anyone else in Pakistan would believe in such a conspiracy when its original initiatives and the people who brought it to the public domain backtracked from that, and they said, well, it was probably for public consumption, or there is a constituency which gets fed by anti-Americanism in every country. and Pakistan, many other Asian countries. So yes, at times politicians, they do things for populist reasons. But as far as a responsible government is concerned, a caretaker government is concerned, we ensure that no one, no matter whether it's United States of America or any other power, meddles in our domestic affairs. We are a sovereign country, we are a sovereign nation. We do exercise and do things according to our own interests. Whether that was a good decision or a bad decision to oust Imran Khan's government, but all we know is that for last many years, that was the only way and time when he was ousted constitutionally. There was no military coup. So the Constitution provided the bringing in, it does explain and the procedure how to bring in a government or how to oust it. So that was all constitutional and lawful.
But if we speak of undue influence, whether it's suspected or real, many will point to the military, also called the establishment in Pakistan, and its role. Many Pakistanis complain that all political figures are ultimately at the mercy of Pakistan's military. And even though politicians, many of them will lament that the military has undue influence, they will use their relationship with the military to their advantage whenever possible. Can Pakistan really work as a democracy when most Pakistanis believe their leadership is beholden to this almost nefarious relationship with the military?
Well, as far as our civil-military relation and its imbalance is concerned, I personally view it in a pure governance structure, and with that perspective. Pakistani politicians have had a marital alliance, political marital alliance with this institution for their own specific interests. All the political leadership, I won't name any, I won't single out any one. They have all sailed together with the same military to attain political power. And once they are out of the power, this is one of the favorite mantra, to criticize and shift the onus of their own failures in terms of governance and pinpoint the reason behind that failure as an imbalance between the civil and military relationship. Does it exist or it doesn't? Well, of course it does. And the reason for that is that, unfortunately, in our case, the civilian institutions who are responsible for the service delivery at the behest of the government or state are performing quite poorly in last 3 to 4 decades, be it in our health services, be it our education services, be it our disaster management, be it our tax revenue collection. So when there is this poor governance challenges, the only institution which has the organizational capability left with us is military. So anyone who's leading the government has to rely on the day-to-day basis of the challenges of governance and engage them to do that delivery part. And there is the real issue that if you want to resolve that, and if somebody is genuinely interested that the military should not meddle in the affairs of the state structure, which probably is not their role, then we need to enhance the capability of these civilian institutions. The solution is not that you weaken or dwindle the organizational strength of the current military.
So because it is effectively maybe the only truly disciplined institution in Pakistan, it's here to stay for the foreseeable future in Pakistan's politics?
Well, pragmatically, realistically, and honestly, if I have to answer it, affirmative, yes.
Okay. Let's look at Pakistan's national security now, and the struggles, of course, there are many of them with terrorist groups. You are from Baluchistan, for example, which has dealt with decades of insurgencies, and attacks are sadly increasing at present. You also have this very troubled relationship, I'll say, with Afghanistan and the Taliban there and their affiliate in Pakistan. Pakistan has actually accused the Taliban of not cracking down on terrorist elements within Pakistan within Afghanistan, and then allowing, therefore, attacks to occur on Pakistani soil. Now, the Taliban says your government is actually looking for a scapegoat because you have not done enough to strengthen your own security. Has Pakistan failed?
I don't think so. It is in the perspective in which this query has been raised. If I take you back for last 2 decades, US, along with its international major NATO powers, they had a presence of 2 decades, which I call a squandered opportunity after spending around $2 trillion. What they were trying to do over there was to create a central authority and do the nation-building project, which they couldn't. And during that presence, all these issues vis-a-vis security was a consistent and a sort of a perpetual challenge for Pakistan. We have been facing such attacks almost for 15, 16 years. And we have been trying to counter in terms of kinetics, non-kinetics measures, and we have been quite successful to manage that violence to a certain level. What actually happened when this squandered opportunity left the region? If somebody is thinking that after spending so much and investing so much in terms of resources and time, if the whole of Western Hemisphere with its NATO powers failed to have a central authority which could deliver in the whole of the territory of Afghanistan, then a militia which was continue in insurgency, and once its role was morphed and within a couple of hours they changed to the role of governance, would they be able to respond to those challenges which the earlier one failed? I think so. This would be a bit ambitious, unrealistic, and we do understand that we are interacting with the layers of influence, if I may call that. There is a de facto control and an authority of a group in Afghanistan. And
how so?
Well, there is, do you see that there is a Westphalian state in Afghanistan where the central authority is well entrenched in Kabul, and its all orders are implemented throughout the country in a very transparent and organized manner? Of course, that is not the case. There are small groups, some in the east, some in the south, some in the north, and they do have their area of influence. Yes, there is overall a group which was formerly TTA, now they would call themselves Amarat, who has by and large the facade of the control. But they themselves have admitted that there are times and there are areas where the capacity issue is there, that they cannot respond to certain groups within their soil. So they needed time, which we understand. And I am very sanguine and hopeful that we will engage with the Afghans despite some challenging times in our relationship, because it is in the common interest of both the nations that such groups are eliminated from this region.
Indeed. But let's just be clear then, you do not blame Afghanistan's own failure.
Oh, well, as far as
for your security issues in Pakistan,
well,
for attacks that are increasing, that you say are crossing the border.
As far as intentions are concerned, we are not here to judge the intentions of that de facto government. Yes, we have a concern because the groups like TTP, they do reside on Afghan soil. We do raise such issues with them. There are training camps over there on their soil, which is whether it is all intentional, does it enjoy the patronage of that government? That remains to be seen. So we don't want to complicate that relationship as far as our security operations are concerned. So we're looking at that complex web and trying to draw the right conclusion and devise our security policy accordingly.
Okay, understood. I mean, but there are, you know those, there are many in Pakistan who point the finger directly at Afghanistan. And in Afghanistan, I mean, before the Taliban actually took over, it was Pakistan that had insisted they had to be included in the so-called political process. But Pakistan seemed to act as if they would behave magically as one should behave in a democracy. I mean, Pakistan should have known that would never be the case. The Taliban has never had intentions to share power with anybody or to participate in a democracy in Afghanistan. Does Pakistan at all regret having supported bringing the Taliban back into a so-called political process and back into power in Kabul?
I think so. It's a statement which is probably out of proportion, that Pakistan has helped bring Taliban in this political process. Taliban were actually acknowledged by United States and its allies as one of the important players in Afghanistan. After fighting them for almost 17, 18 years, spending again what I would refer to as trillions of dollars, and if they felt that they failed to manage that insurgency, they were the one who realized that there has to be some sort of negotiations with that group. And in that context, yes, the role of Pakistan was of encouragement. We were of the view that it is a group, whether you like it or you don't, you agree with them, you disagree with them, but they are an important player in Afghan society. So what do you do with that society? How do you negotiate with such groups? That was a global challenge, exclusive challenge for Pakistan.
But regardless of whom anyone feels is to blame for the Taliban-affiliated attacks that are taking place in Pakistan, there is another frightening element, and that is Daesh in the region claiming responsibility for a number of attacks, which are also increasing. That is on Pakistan, if it's within Pakistan's borders, to fight that terrorist threat. Can you do it?
Pakistan probably is the success story in the region when it comes to countering terrorism and fighting that challenge on its own.
Daesh in particular?
Well, all forms of terrorism, including Daesh. I think so. We are the only nation who has lost around 90,000 individuals in fighting this menace. I do not see any other country who has paid that much.
We have fought hard, but attacks are still increasing. More people are dying.
Well, of course, insurgencies at times, they survive even for decades, 5, 6, 7. We will fight and protect our land and our people, no matter how much resource it takes, no matter how much time it takes. We are there to stay. That is home. We're not going anywhere else.
Okay. Let me ask you about Pakistan's relationship with India. Complicated topic, but it's interesting because you now have another former prime minister, self-imposed exile in London at present, Nawaz Sharif. Looks like he's wanting to come back as well into the political fold in Pakistan, but we know he was charged with corruption and terrorism, chose to go into self-exile, but he has specifically said, look at India. They're hosting the G20. They're landing on the moon while we're out begging for bailouts. Does he have a point?
I probably see it with a very different perspective. I see that there are cycles of life within lifespan of an individual or nation for that matter. You do get good patches and you do get bad patches. If you are stuck in your bad patch and you start dwelling in that, it becomes nearly impossible to get out of it. If you want to turn around your adversarial time and turn it into a fortune one, you have to learn the lessons and be quite optimist and sanguine about the future. Yes, we had some challenging times, some difficult times, economically, socially, in terms of security. Indians also had some challenging decades on their account. But that cycle for them turned around, and now there is a lot of global interest in Indian economy and Indian society, but that does not mean that we become paranoid and feel insecure due to Indian apparent success.
It's not to feel
We are more focused inwardly towards our own situation, and I'm pretty much confident that we will be in a position to get out of this economic mess, security challenges, and Pakistan has a very promising and shining future that I'm very certain of.
Prime Minister Ulhaq Kakar, thank you so much
for being with us
on the Newsmakers. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
نگران وزیراعظم انوار الحق کاکڑ کا ترکیہ کے ٹی وی